Have you ever had a crush that just completely took over? I mean, so much so that it started to feel more real than your actual everyday life? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, using Anne Skye's book, In Love with an Illusion, as our guide. We're going to explore what happens when that beautiful dream of love turns into something else entirely, an all-consuming illusion.
This quote from the author, Anne Skye, just nails it, doesn't it? It says, "I dreamed of love, but I woke up in longing." And that's the feeling right there. It's that huge, aching gap between the beautiful dream you have in your head and the reality you wake up to. And for some, that feeling can start to define everything.
So how does something like this even start? It's almost never a conscious decision. It's more like this warm rush. It just creeps in and starts to blur the lines between what's real and this incredibly vivid, compelling fantasy world that you're building piece by piece in your mind.
And let's be clear, this is way beyond just a bit of casual daydreaming. We're talking about total immersion. Your thoughts just keep circling back to them again and again. Every song you hear on the radio, every time you hear their name, boom, you're pulled right back into that world. And pretty soon, your actual life starts to feel kind of gray and secondary, while the fantasy, that's where all the color is. It feels so much more alive.
Okay, but what happens when that fantasy stops being just a fun daydream and turns into a full-blown escape from reality? There's a story from the author that illustrates this with just heartbreaking clarity. So imagine this. One evening, she's putting her 3-year-old daughter to bed, and the little girl asks for a story. And so she tells one, a completely made-up, magical, beautiful story of how she met this person she was so consumed by. You can just feel the emotion in her voice as she's painting this picture of someone who means the absolute world to her.
And her daughter, sensing how incredibly important this person is to her mom, but also noticing he's, well, never actually around, she comes to the only logical conclusion a 3-year-old could. She asks, "Is he dead?" And wow, that one innocent question just lays the whole illusion bare. This person felt so real, so present in the story, that his absence in real life could only be explained by something as final as death.
And that right there is the central conflict, isn't it? You have this beautiful, elaborate dream that you've built, but it's always inevitably going to collide with the real world. And that collision, that constant, sharp reminder of the gap between your fantasy and the facts, it's almost always painful. It is a true emotional roller coaster. One minute you can be on this incredible high, feeling a genuine rush of excitement from a moment you just imagined or wrote down, but then comes the low. You scroll through their social media and see their real life playing out, a life you're not in, or maybe you get brave and send a message that just sits there, unanswered. And you feel that sting, that feeling of being so foolish. And then there's the crash, a cold reply or a harsh dose of reality that just shatters the whole beautiful illusion, even if it's just for a moment. This quote from the book just captures that internal battle so perfectly. It's a bittersweet tug-of-war in my head between what is and what I dreamed of. You're just constantly being pulled back and forth between the warm comfort of the fantasy and the cold, sharp sting of reality. So what do you even call this incredibly powerful, overwhelming, and, let's face it, often painful state of mind? Well, it turns out this experience is so common that it actually has a name. And just knowing that name can be the first real step toward getting some clarity. The term is limerence. It was coined by a psychologist named Dorothy Teneval back in the 70s. And it's not just a crush. It's an involuntary state of intense adoration. The key things to look for are those intrusive, obsessive thoughts and this desperate, desperate need for the other person to feel the same way. This chart here makes the difference so incredibly clear. You see, limerence really thrives on fantasy, on hope, on uncertainty. Any contact with reality often brings pain. But real love, that's built on an actual connection. It finds comfort in a shared, messy, real life. And it's deepened by security, not by doubt. Realizing that what you're feeling might be limerence isn't the end of the story. In fact, it's the beginning. It's the start of a path back to yourself. And probably the most important thing you need to hear is this: you are not broken for feeling this way. Let me just say that again because it's so important. You are absolutely not alone in this. This intense, dreamlike state of longing is something so many people have experienced.
I mean, there are entire communities built around sharing these exact stories and helping each other navigate this very unique and often very isolating journey.
The really good news is that there's a clear path forward. It really comes down to 3 steps. First, you understand it. You give the feeling a name. Second, you share it. You find people who really truly get what you're going through. And third, from that place of understanding and support, you can finally begin to heal and start reclaiming your own life.
So we'll leave you with one last question to chew on. What would change if you stopped seeing this intense, painful longing as some kind of personal flaw or something you should be ashamed of? What if, instead, you saw it as a powerful signal from deep inside you, pointing you toward a much deeper understanding of your own needs, your own creativity, and your own life? What would change then?
Now, if this really resonated with you and you want to dive a little deeper, the source for this explainer is the book Loving an Illusion by Anne Skye. There's also a really supportive community called Limerence Pathfinders on the School platform. And that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining me.